Today we're going to talk a lot about the evolution of search. Where are things going? How do we prepare? We're going to talk a lot of concepts, but I also want to give you a lot of tactics to think about. You're in, as we said, a highly regulated industry. I also started my career as an investment banking analyst sleeping under my desk at Sullivan Smith Barney. So I know how hard you all work. I also understand, though, that when we talk about these new technologies and these new opportunities, there's a rollout, there's guidelines, and there's ways to do it well, and there's ways to also get a little ahead of yourself. I want to give you some of those guardrails and ways to think about it, and also ways, hopefully, for you to convey to your management teams what are good places to start, what are good places to advance, and where will you see real advantage right away. And so, as said, my name is Christian Ward. I'm Chief Data Officer at Yext. I've been at Yext since 2013, which in Yext years is like 108. And it's one of those things, it's a privilege, but my whole career has been in structured data. And so when we think about where this goes, we're going to run through three areas. But it's always really about the data that powers the AI. And many times you'll hear us say this phrase, which is, your AI strategy is actually just your data strategy. And it's because the AI is going to move so fast, you're not really going to have an AI business, but you're going to leverage it to change and to augment everything you do as human beings. So let's start with this. Now, you've probably heard from Yext, perhaps myself, certainly our team, that search fragmentation is occurring. Now, what you may not realize is Yext was started around 2009, 2 years following the iPhone coming out. The iPhone was the first data fragmentation. If you all remember when that came out, it was the first time you had like Apple Maps, MapQuest, MapWe. There were 1 million apps that had data in them, and they all had the data different. So Yext was born out of fragmentation of data. It's happening again. Another way to look at this diagram is this way, which is we think about it through time. Classic search was incredibly fragmented. There were 1 million ways. Remember Ask Jeeves? Like there were 1 million ways. Dogpile was my favorite. That was like, it was a search engine of search engines. But it all coalesced at Google over roughly 20 to 25 years. In fact, the DOJ still wonders about how it got there, right? So this is a constant discussion. But what I can tell you is we've never seen fragmentation like this before. It is utterly staggering how fast it's happening. But it's not happening equally everywhere. It's sort of that classic quote that the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. So let's figure out where it is. Now, Gartner predicted 25% of Google search traffic would decline by 2026. I'm here to tell you that it already happened by the end of 2024. We know that, and we're uniquely positioned because we power roughly 2 million businesses' data live in Google around the world, 2.5 million. So we can actually see the difference in traffic and the difference in clicks. Now what's crazy is while the searching is going down, the impressions, the clicks on Google are holding steady. Why? It's because people aren't exploring in Google as much as they were. But they still go to Google to find your financial advisor's phone number. Right? So what's happening is they're still exploiting in the terms of data science. They're taking exploits in Google, but they're starting to explore in other areas. And that's not just to say ChatGPT or any of these platforms. That's also that Instagram, TikTok. You ask a young person, they don't look for where to go to dinner on Google. They look on TikTok. And so search is fragmenting in many ways, not just with AI. Now, I want to talk about a couple of tactical systems. Claude 3.7 Sonnet. Any of you in marketing divisions that have access to requesting AI systems, I want you to try this model. This model is exceptionally good at mimicking voice. So you can actually give it, and I don't mean voice like speaking, I mean your tone, your brand. Try this one. If you've tried to build marketing tools with ChatGPT, you'll know this, it's a real pain. It always inserts its own language and everything else. This one is outstanding. So from a tactical perspective, I want you to try this model. Now, Gemini 2.5 also came out more recently, and they made it available to everyone. So those AI overviews that you see in Google and AI mode, it's powered by this model. You should be trying this model with any question about your brand, your business, new products, new services. In fact, one of the things you'll see later with our product Scout is we're asking millions of questions of all the different AI to understand where is it getting its data, what are the citations, because you want to understand what's going into the model has a direct effect on what it says about your brand and about your offerings. Now, Another one, if you haven't tried ChatGPT's image gen, you'll probably see a lot on LinkedIn. People are turning themselves into action figures. It's actually quite funny. Stu Greer's, by the way, is outstanding. So if you go, this is an interesting model because image gen is going to become a natural extension of the marketing process. You're going to have your assets, but then you're going to update those assets not by having another photo shoot, but by using AI to augment that marketing prowess. Last, Google AI mode is one of these where I think if you have tried it, you can turn it on usually in your personal account. You may not be able to do it in your professional. And I recommend, even if you can't access these things professionally, you should be using them and exploring with them on the weekends in your personal accounts. Particularly, I have teenagers. It's amazing for preparing research for papers. But the more you use it, the more you realize some models are good at different things. And I think as marketing divisions or leaders in your brand, you have to understand those things in order to take the best advantage of it. And then deep research. If you haven't tried this, again, highly recommend it. Now, I'm not advocating you do anything that your legal and compliance say you can't. What I am saying is any topic. So for example, I put in, if I was a PE company, which of the following AI small companies that build websites or do anything, I asked it that sort of research. It comes back with a 45-page document with all the links, the financial analysis. It's absolutely amazing. And so you try this on any topic, just what car to buy. And it will show you where this is going, which is people say things like, oh, the AI hallucinates, it's not, it lies. We're well beyond a lot of that. I'm not saying it can't happen, but you almost have the same likelihood that a junior analyst on your team that goes away for 2.5 weeks and comes back with a 45-page paper, I will offer that you're at the same error rate they will make versus the AI, maybe even a little worse. So it's worth trying. Now, as we think about search generally, right? We've gone through this transitional period. This is actually a slide that was at Davos. So it's kind of interesting. The world's leaders, the greatest economic thinkers and billionaires, they had this slide up this year at Davos talking about this existential change of what AI search is going to be. So it's not just us here in this wonderful room. It's everyone talking about this in every industry. And when we think about this, it's going to move beyond just this fragmentation question into this idea of AI agents. You've heard these terms, agentic. And while financial services has to be very careful with how they use agentic, that's externally. Internally, you could see agentic doing a lot of things that could help financial services businesses and marketing departments. The rise of these agents is something that is so critical also for you to understand, not from your business perspective, but from the customer journey perspective. Most customers are going to start using these agents to have full-blown conversations about particular topics. And as we'll see, there's a way for you to think about each of the topics to determine your marketing strategy, because you need to now understand that you're not going to be feeding your data and your brand and your capabilities and your services and your research. All of that is now going to be fed to the agent. See, we all believe that we're marketing to humans. You're not. You're now marketing to search engines, you have been for a long time, and you're marketing to AI agents. Andrej Karpathy, we'll talk about in a second, he predicts that within the next 2 years, 95% of web traffic will be AI agents. Only the 5% will be once the human trusts the agent to go to your website. Now, I know that's concerning, but it's really not. What it is a streamlined path to answers. And we've all been talking about this for a long time. But if the top of the funnel starts moving to where I ask an AI agent all my questions about wealth advisory, you have to be the one providing the data. You have to have your information available or it's not going to recommend you. And as I'm going to show, that gets really nuanced really fast. So this is a chart. Actually, I made the chart, but it was off of a napkin that Andrej Karpathy, he's one of the most brilliant data scientists. He's definitely worth following in all of his writings, as well as he teaches classes now. He was at OpenAI. He talks a lot about agency. And what's really interesting is we've been in this low agency, low intelligence quadrant for a long time. And that's the annoying chatbots. You guys know, you tried them on all your websites. They're terrible, right? And so they don't have the answer and they can't do anything. So they were sort of this annoying entry into the world of this. Now we're sort of in the low agency, high intelligence, which is, we can't argue with the fact that OpenAI's 4.5 Pro model is pretty much like talking to a PhD in almost any subject. It's high intelligence, just can't do anything. So it's low agency. This year is where you're going to start seeing high agency, high intelligence. It's not going to initially come in financial services, but it might internally within financial services, meaning behind your firewall, you all can use it. You'll see this in your research departments, where they want to be able to talk to documents of research spanning 20 years and get answers back to build a timeline for a new report they're building. So you will see this. What I think when it comes to marketing is you're almost looking at it from the other side, which is the consumer using an agent to find you. And that's going to be this high intelligence, high agency quadrant. So let's move on to search, source, and citations. Now, when we talk about how different query types respond differently with AI, it's really important to understand that the different type of questions determines what the AI source is. And the reason why I show you this is the customer journey oftentimes starts with these sort of complex, unbranded questions. So it's sort of like, hey, I'm thinking of a new wealth advisor. First off, should I get a wealth advisor? That's a complex, unbranded question. And then it moves into, well, who's a good advisor that does family trusts, right? So it grows into then what produces branded questions where they're like, well, is this company good? Is this brand a good one? And then it gets to these objective, factual questions like, are they taking any new clients? What time do they open? So this circle, this construct is, you have this sort of difference of where is the closest Apple store versus where is the closest computer store. That's branded versus unbranded. I know these are simple concepts, but I really want to dig in because if you understand these three, you're going to understand how to target which content in what ways to which models. Objective versus subjective. So when you're asking a factual thing, what time is the restaurant open versus is this a good restaurant, are very different models. For example, you don't want to hear from the restaurant whether they're a good restaurant or not, right? You don't ask the fox how the hen house is going, right? But you do ask the restaurant what time they open because you want the direct answer from the supplier. The last is simple versus complex, and this is the one you all should be focused on, which is what is the address of a dentist versus why does this dentist use Invisalign versus whatever, teenagers again, my life is orthodontics. So when you go through this is one of those where you say, hey, this is a complex question, and it's going to be pulling from many different sources, and it's going to be looking for different types of data to answer this question. So when we run through these, for example, what time is the Apple Store open? It's branded, objective, simple. These are all combinations, so you get all the combinatorial benefits of what these different combinations make. Branded, subjective, simple. Is Catch Steak a good restaurant near Charlesley Market? Yes, it is. Next question, unbranded, subjective, simple. What's a good restaurant for a business dinner? Again, I don't know which restaurant is unbranded, but it's a simple question, and it's subjective. But financial service questions are often more complex. They will often cause something new to happen. If you're not using AI every day, you won't necessarily see this. But this is probably the biggest change in how AI is operated, which is it will ask clarifying questions. And by that, what I mean is, if I say, who's a great financial advisor in Midtown who specializes in family trusts, do you know what it doesn't do? It doesn't return a list of financial advisors. It actually does this. Well, let me first ask you, is proximity to you, their firm, their educational background, do those matter to you? It will ask clarifying questions. We call this prompt inversion. So a lot of people think of, oh, you're the human, you prompt the AI. No. With complex questions, the AI prompts the human. It asks clarifying questions. Every premium model now does this, especially for anything complex. Now, why is that important? Because when they do this, think of it this way. If I had typed financial advisor Midtown into Google, I'd get a list of stuff. And by the end of the hour of looking into it, I'd have 97 tabs open and have no idea what I was looking at, right? We can't compile that much information. What this is doing is, imagine it's taking what Google should have been for years. It's asking clarifying questions because you don't know what to type in next. It's helping you get there. It's the tyranny of the blank box, if you will. Google has a blank box, people don't know what to ask. But this gets you closer. So if I respond to this, and I say, nah, it doesn't have to be close by, but I'd love to if they went to the University of Florida. I'd love if they were an alumni there. I went there, my daughter's there. Here's the thing. People in economics have known for a very long time. People do not make decisions for all the best reasons. They have lots of reasons for choosing a doctor, a wealth advisor, financial advisor. Do you know how many financial advisor relationships are just golf? I think you do. Okay? Now, you should be asking, what is their cumulative average return for the last 5 years minus fees, right? No, that's not how the relationship is built. So when I tell it this, it comes back and says, great, well, based on that, let me give you some names of advisors that have a connection to the University of Florida. This is all live chat. These are real. And so when it did that, what have I done? Well, I've not only changed the search experience, I've changed the rankings. And if you see this where it says memory updated, has everyone experimented with memory yet? I really want you to look into memory. Search is fragmenting, but rankings are also fragmenting. Because when I have memories built, every time I now ask a question, by the way, it's kind of interesting. I had demonstrated for a dentistry chain adding University of Florida. And then when I asked it about financial advisory, it actually responded, well, given your penchant for working with gators, because the memory builds. And over time, what that means is your ability to brand and provide information where brand is still going to be absolutely critical. But the voice of that brand and the facts, if you don't have where every one of your advisors went to school, and you don't have every golf club that they've ever played, and you don't have every degree or certification that they have, and you don't have what their professional favorite football, look, people pick they pick financial advisors because they like to go Jaguar games with them. This is not, look, thinking fast and slow, Daniel Kahneman was the first that kind of opened our eyes to this. People do not make logical decisions. But that doesn't matter now that AI has a memory. It's going to influence all of these results. So the brand of University of Florida is now in the memory, but it's going to affect everything else I do. You have to prepare for this because what it means is the AI is going to take the top half of your funnel and then it's going to drop them off at your doorstep. Now, can I also offer some good news? That means almost everyone that actually gets to your website to schedule an appointment is already pre-qualified. There is some reason that the AI has gotten them there, but only if you get your data perfect everywhere so that the AI is actually giving them the right answers. Because if I find out it told me you went to Florida and you didn't, we're going to have a problem. Okay. So complexity will often invert the prompt. So prompt inversion is complexity. Almost everything you do other than your hours of operation and some of those facts, you have to get those right. But you also want to start thinking about what are the other complex things that you can have an opinion on or you can have it out on your website and in third-party platforms. And memory is going to fragment search rankings. Every experience is going to be so personal. Remember, an ads-driven search market that's centralized thrives on not over-personalizing. Because if it actually remembered everything I put into Google for the last 20 years, remember, nobody lies to the search bar. Technically, Google knows everything about what I'm interested in not, but it doesn't want to shrink that universe because it's ad-supported. For the models that are not ad-supported, they are happy to have a memory to never show me restaurants that specialize in tree nut recipes because my daughter is deathly allergic. My AI now knows that. I still have to type that into Google and she's 18. Right? That's a long time for them not to have a memory about it. So when we think about the different citations, now I'm going to get super tactical. One of the great things about AI that you can't do in Google is you can ask it, hey, what sources did you use to answer this question? I love this. This is actually a big Yext thing, so this is really good, which is for years we've tried to explain to people why you have to have your data correct everywhere. And it's because all data science systems are basically built there's an academic theory called the information quality theory from 1996. And it basically says the consistency of your data, the frequency of it being updated, the recency, and the depth, how much data, is how all search and AI systems determine who to show first. It's not that complex. Like if I asked all of you and I wasn't from New York, hey, what's the best slice of pizza that I could get nearby? And you all said Goodfellas Pizza. How confident would I be that I should go to Goodfellas Pizza? Pretty damn confident. Now imagine I ask that same question and every single person has a different answer, which in New York you probably would. But if you go through that process, that is hard for AI or data systems because there's no consistency. There's no congruency. AI is built on the same exact models. So when I ask an unbranded objective question, and then you can actually ask it, what types of citations will you provide for this type of question? And this was actually on the financial advisor. Look at it. It says government regulatory, so it almost always brings back the FINRA reg, where you can see the person standing and you can see their licensure, you can look them up. It also brings back professional industry associations. So if they have a CFA registration, it'll actually bring back information from the CFA. Then it brings back reputable independent firms that grade or rate different funds, fund management companies. And then it brings in trusted financial educational resources. So this is an unbranded, objective, complex question. Now, if I ask it another one, unbranded, subjective, simple, This is where I want an opinion. So it's going to see things like Yelp and Google reviews. It's going to bring in local guides or blogs where there are people having opinions about working with an advisor or working with it. You'll see this also, and it will bring in many times like local articles about your wealth advisory division being involved in local community engagement. Like you all sponsor the local food bank and here's photos. These show up in these reviews because people say very positive things about your involvement. There's all sorts of strategies of what you should be building and building content-wise based on these. Here's what type for branded, objective, simple. They use your website almost all the time. Your local landing pages, your intent pages, the service pages of what you offer in each branch or in each office are critical because every last question is, well, what's the name of one of the advisors on that team? That is a branded objective question because I've asked about your firm. That almost always pulls back as the first source, your primary domain. But it pulls back the local version of that advisor's page because it's actually the closest thing to the right answer. It does not drop you off on the top level domain. It also then goes to things like directory listings, Google profile. It goes to location for mapping service, Google Apple Maps. Again, try this. Ask it questions about your brand or about your competitors' brands or unbranded, about your area, and then say to it, show me all the citations. Show me where you're getting that data. And you will see that many of the platforms that Yext for years has been updating, it kind of makes me laugh because people are like, by the way, how many of you printed out MapQuest pages to get here? Hank did, and he probably, yeah, all right. My parents don't even use MapQuest anymore, okay? Do you know how often MapQuest shows up in these citations? It is unbelievable. Why? Because MapQuest actually has a phenomenally structured data page for directory information. They still do, they always have. And so what you'll see is the AI is using the same systems, the same sources that we've been saying for a long time you must use. So the different type drives the citations. And the citations are your pathway to controlling how the AI understands or does not understand. Remember, if I ask a question that I want to have somebody that went to the University of Florida in the finance degree, which I did, I want to work with someone like that. That is nonsensical. But if you don't have all of those degrees for your people that on your site for your advisors, you're not going to show up. It's worth rethinking just how much data you should be putting on these pages and just how structured and local they should be. So what's a successful approach to AI? I want you to think about how long it took to adopt electricity. So this is from the World of Data website. You got to go there, it's amazing. But you go there and it'll pull out, I pulled up electrical grids, the internet, and really from the dawns of these things to adoption, look how steep the line is for AI. Now, why is it being adopted so quickly? Because we're not adopting it. It's the first technology that's adopting us. The cognitive burden of using AI is almost zero. The cognitive burden of understanding how electricity gets to your house and you plug into it and like what happens when the power goes out is massive. And we don't even think about it anymore. All of these technologies disappear. We just assume that everyone's always had it. We don't think about the effort to get it there and to use it. AI is much faster than all of those. So it's going to be the customer journey that you have to build for. It already is. That chart is amazing. Now, last night we had a lot of conversations about, hey, adopting AI. There's rules, we have guidelines, we have a committee. Just want to offer, none of you are behind it as an industry. You are behind other industries for certain because they're just not as regulated as you are. However, marketing in particular is the one area for two reasons I think you should be pushing as hard as you can to open up more access to using more of these tools. And it's because number one, a lot of times you're not dealing with sensitive information, so you can really leverage these to show the power of it to the organization, especially the C-suite. And number two, show me any 23-year-old out of college that you want to hire and you tell them, yeah, we refuse to use AI. You're going to have a hiring problem because you're going to stunt their career. Now, each of these, many of you are in the first two areas. This is where you single prompt experiment, you're treating it like a search engine. And then you move into where you have a dialogue with it, some memories are formed. But where the aha moment is when you start asking the AI to write the prompts for you. That's when you go, holy cow. where you say, I want to build something that turns our long-form research into a LinkedIn post half as much in this tone of voice, and I want to do this, and it writes the prompt, and then you put the prompt into a project. Once you do that, your mind will blow. Because now you go, I can generate 500 amazing LinkedIns, share them with the network, let people choose which one is appropriate to their client base, personalize it, and push it out. That's the type of thing you got to get to. It's having the machine build its own software, if you will, its prompt. Once you get there, you'll really see the explosion of ROI. Now, we're going to talk a lot about Scout in just a couple minutes here. Scout, I just want to show this chart because we did an initial study. Scout is our new platform. We acquired a company that analyzes every business of our clients. So let's say one wealth advisory office in Boca Raton. It analyzes the office, and then it analyzes the 40 competitors that rank in Google around that office. So every one of your competition, for every business, for every office. So it knows how their Google profile looks. We pull all the data. Google, all of their reviews, all of their social, and all of their website. We literally crawl every one of your competitors' websites just for you, and we can show you their Google rank and their rank in Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and one other. Why? Because what we're doing is we're now realizing if I can sit with you, I think we all know this, there's always been best practices in SEO and search. Now with memory, there's a whole nother issue. What we're doing is we're analyzing every month how you're ranking 1 to 40 for your primary category in Google. Every month we take a snapshot of you and all of your competition. Every month we do it again. Why? Because we're seeing crazy anomalies that the people that are in one area need to do a certain type of data, but the people winning in another area. So I can see what are all the top 3 people in the Google Local Pack, what are they doing on their website that you're not doing? How many photos do they have? How much text do they have? Do they have schema markup? What type of schema markup? I can see all of it. So what I can do is the next month when people are gaining on you or the top people are falling, what did they all do that you didn't do or vice versa? So we can uncover what's working. Because what's really interesting in the data we've already seen, it depends completely on the geography, the population, the business density. There is no one size fits all. And you know this instinctively. If you walk out of this room and you type coffee, what ranks number 1 for coffee in Manhattan is very different than what ranks number 1 for coffee in terms of what works in Roswell, Georgia. Why? It's just a totally different market. People drive there. It's different. The Google algorithms and the AI algorithms take those into account. So you need to look at the local level for all of these metrics. Don't get me wrong, the brand level you should be looking, of course, but you also want to look at it a much tighter competitive set. Because you will see month to month, and we are seeing it, you're seeing somebody that wasn't even listed in the top 40 jump to being number 20. And we can see they did a bunch of stuff you're not doing. That's what Scout does, and we're doing it for all the industries. But I thought it was interesting. Insurance agency, bank, and financial planner in our first study was a huge portion. That's 1 million businesses that we're analyzing so we can figure out how this goes. That's 1 million just in our first run. Now, why do I bring this up? Because for a long time, our competition said things like, well, you don't have to do all this data. You don't have to do what Yext does. They sold a good enough thing. You don't have to get listings right. It's not that important. You just need Google. It's never been right. But now I can see everyone that they power and all the competition, and I can actually do the analysis. So check this out. This is the odds of the increase in probability of showing up in the top 3 for your primary category in every zip code for 12 million businesses. The Yext is the baseline, we're saying, if it's no better. Our competition tends to power at 13% lower probability. This is each one of our competitors combined, because we can see who they are. We're now crawling everything. I can see that the people that don't use anyone actually do 7% better than the people that use our competition. Why? Because our competition always does things where they sync certain data, and then they use like aggregators to feed the data out. What does that violate? It violates one of the core tenets of IQT, information quality theory. If the data isn't synchronized in real time, that means it's not consistent because aggregators slowly hand out the data and they don't hand out all the same data. Whereas we build it where it's real time, everything updates instantaneously, your pages, your listings, all of it. We do that to ensure that it's a strong signal at all times. The proof is in the actual math. This is on 12.5 million businesses. So analyzing competition at scale through time is the ideal approach to sort of dismantling and understanding what are the strategies we need to do. And the Yext Scout platform really analyzes these millions through time so we can give you those insights. But not just the insight at the brand level, we can actually get right down to one office. We can even show you how different advisors, based on their effort to use the marketing tools and assets you give them, how they perform against advisors that don't use your stuff. Because we all know it's herding cats. And if we can show them these advisors are doing what we say you should do as the marketing and the leadership, they are beating you, we can show that because we're tracking all of it now.